up, everybody? I'm Donnie Crashbones. Welcome to Unknown for the Most Likely. Today, we have our special guest, JAS2, who's an ambient drone artist. He has many releases, such as one with Ixion and stuff on Kessel label. And yeah, I'm excited to start. So let's go.
Hey, hey.
How's it going today?
Oh, hey, it's going great. It's going great. Yeah, thanks for having me on. This can go a million different directions. I'm really excited to see what we come up with here.
Yeah, no, this is exciting, man. No, I've been following a lot of most of the sound lately, with most of these guests, and it's really cool to like find a lot of new stuff. And yeah, when I found your stuff, it was really, it's very, spacey. That's what I was finding, very sci-fi and stuff. What were your favorite sounds when you were kind of like, starting before, your project?
Yeah, so kind of just starting with sound in general, or more so recent projects, or a little bit of both, or
Yeah,
what?
a little bit of both, yeah.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, so I've always really been interested in just sound as a whole, growing up with a lot of tapes and things like that, recording things off the radio, just kind of like doing things like pause tapes and things like that, but not really knowing what it was called.
Hmm.
And then just getting really kind of deep diving into different forms of music. So earlier on, like what would have been called underground hip hop, really getting into that
Hmm.
around like '04. So I don't know. I've been working with music for a couple of decades, but it's super varied. So
Yeah.
a lot of different projects, a lot of kind of manipulating like the medium itself with physical tape loops, like cassette loops, but also like 8 tracks. One of the projects that me and a friend had and still have is called Associus, and it's a made up word. But what we would do is we would have an 8 track, and we'd split it open, and then we would run it around a room, and we would have the 8 track tape, kind of like an installation piece, play in one large loop around a room,
Oh,
from the ceiling down to the player. So just kind of like letting things run, and sort of seeing what can be done with like uh, consumer grade stuff, a lot of that. So kind of two parallel things at once. Like there's the hip hop side. I'm not super active in that currently, beat making, and then more of the more experimental types of sounds. And yeah, it has it changes. It changes every day. It's all based on the project. I try to do as much as I can with and get my mind around the project itself, and kind of push everything else out. Um, and then just see what happens. But yeah, uh, really
mhm.
just had, glad to be here. And there's so much to potentially cover, but yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
no, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I was kind of noticing some of the sound. I've been like noticing a little bit of glitch sounds and stuff. Um, and I think it's really good. It separates it from a lot of like just the basic like noise out there and stuff. Uh, you know, what was the first thing about glitch you noticed, and like what made you get deep into it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really, for me personally, I really like the idea of exploring something as deeply as possible. So um, in the beginning, like making rhythmic type music or something like that, it's all about, in my mind anyway, it's like, don't mess up, don't make a mistake, make sure that everything's clean. Everything has to sound
Mhm.
like, if you have some open drums you're sampling, it has to be
Mhm.
clean, it has to be on, it has to be perfect, and it has to, and it doesn't have to do anything. So it's kind of like, where, if it's a machine, like I've used the Roland samplers for quite a while, the SP303. mainly, but 404s and things like that. And it's like, what can I do with this machine that might push it a little bit, might make it a little bit different? Where are some lines that are drawn, and like how can those be erased or broken or whatever? So yeah, I mean, there's people like Doc Kim, for instance, which is a huge inspiration. It's kind of like taking the machines and taking everything around you and making something new out of it. I mean, I'm not saying that my stuff is groundbreaking by any means, but for me and within the methods that I'm trying to use, that's kind of a push to be able to do that. So that's where some of that glitchy type sounds go. If it clips, like, that's great. And it's just good for me. It's just good or bad, and that's just up to me whether it's good or bad. And then it just keeps going if it's good, and then it stops if it's bad. So it's kind of a very simple process.
Yeah, so you're saying like you're into hip hop a little bit and stuff like that. And, tell us like a little bit of your, some couple of your favorites.
Just about. Sorry, I lost you just a little bit.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It was about like, you told me you like hip hop and stuff, and you had a little project. Tell me like a couple favorites you got out there.
For sure. Yeah. So always originally kind of getting into it through Stone's Throw, Madlib, J Dilla, that kind of stuff. Still love all of those things. I'm not super well versed currently in really anything. I still love that for sure. And I think that there might be, and I hope so anyway, that I can find some sort of an intersection between, like cut up noise and hip hop beats, and sort of like in between. I don't know like how far to try to swing kind of the knob of one to the other necessarily. But yeah, so those are definitely some influences. Definitely Madlib, J Dilla, Ross G, those for sure. And really exploring those, kind of a lot of samples revolving around like spiritual jazz and stuff like that. Yeah, I love it. I could listen to it all day and have fun with it. And I also like that continued, like that solid noise, building the layers upon layers, and having that seemingly change over time when it doesn't, or having it slightly change so much, but it can't be recognized. So all of that to me it's kind of all one same thing, but I don't know how to put that into words maybe, but it's all, yeah, to me it's all the same. It's all just the same thing. I'm just happy to be a part of it. It's like I feel for me, it's like there's like a faucet, and that faucet is running all the time. Like right now it's running. There's this faucet. It's just going full blast. It's running. And I'm just like running around with a bucket, and I'm just trying to catch the water. That's the music that's coming out of the faucet. So it's not like I'm not trying, I don't try to make music or not make. It's just the thing that happens. There's no writer's block. It's just this thing that I don't feel like I'm really doing that much. I think it's doing it. And I'm just trying to catch it while I can. So yeah, it's hard to keep up with things. It's hard to keep up with projects and different things like that, because it's like I'm just trying to get the water in the bucket,
It's a lot of people who have been starting. Who's been trying to get into the scene or into a scene. And it's been a way which someone's either nervous or something like they doubt themselves. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
To like. Especially, maybe us out there, we do have our own personal issues, and it has happened where, having writer's block, especially when you want to do lyrical content and stuff, it's just like, it sucks.
Yeah.
Like when you don't have it and stuff, and you just just do, it's just like, okay, when this comes out, it's a good result, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So there's a name. Where did the name come from? JAS2.
Yeah, it's just my initials. So it'd be awesome if there was like some great story or whatever, and then this and then that, But no, it's just my initials. My name's James Allen Sweeney II, and JAS2 is what it is. But I think part of the reason that I've kept it for so long, outside of being my initials, and I can't really do anything about that, is that someone once told me, they were like, "Oh, I see. It's supposed to be about jazz." like it's a new way to write the word jazz. And I was like, huh, that, I don't know. I never had thought about that, of course, because it has nothing to do with that. But, just kind of kept that going anyway. And then that way, in a way that kind of ties other things, or it attempts to tie other things together. Because I have a lot of other projects too, but those aren't necessarily as active. I mean, there's projects that I still consider active, but they haven't done anything for 10 years or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, sometimes hard to keep like, doing a lot of projects all at the same time. It happens.
Yeah.
Um, before you got into the glitch into the noise type of stuff, what was your journey before finding noise? What were you listening to? What other than hip hop and stuff? Did you said you listened to jazz?
Yeah, big fan of Sun Ra, and you can I can just listen to Sun Ra and be done, really, because there's so much of it. He was so prolific. And two, I think for me there's something great about dedication, dedicating time and effort and energy towards something. And Sun Ra, he very much embodied that, almost like a monk style dedication, just hours and hours and hours, with the group his orchestra, that he created. There's something about this dedication, like this, just putting in the work type, just keep going kind of a thing, that I love the music and I love the expression. Especially, there's one album that really stands out to me, and that is Disco 3000. That album is mind-blowing. It sounds like something, kind of 40 years later, or like almost current, using drum machines like way, 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 way back in the day. And just some lovely, some great sounds and that. But I really can attach to those things for whatever reason. And I guess sort of free jazz, spiritual jazz, I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, there's a lot of good jazz out there, I think.
Yeah.
Even like neo jazz, I think. I don't know. I don't think that's what it's called. Neo soul. That's what I was thinking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's some really good stuff out there like that.
For sure.
Yeah, no, jazz has really, changed over the years. And I remember listening to Naked Lunch. Or, sorry, I forgot it's what I'm thinking of. It might be the wrong name, but I was thinking of David Cronenberg's movie, I guess. So, so it has anything, you've done, been influenced from like any films or anything, and anything you've grown up, with scores, like, what was the things you've noticed and what did you like in these films?
Yeah, for sure. So a couple things. There is a film, it's called Fight Club, and there's a specific scene in the movie Fight Club where there's a Raymond K. Hessel that is outside of a convenience store, and I won't go through the whole scene because the scene does it better than I do. But anyway, that specific scene had a huge impact on me, and I created a label recently that's just like a simple net label. Called Hessel Digital, and that's after that guy. So it's like the idea of, if you could do anything, what would you do? And if you're not doing what that is, you have to start right now. Like whatever the thing is that you want to do, and this is me talking to myself, I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do, but it's like you have to start, you have to do it. There's no other option. So anyway, so that film in itself and that scene in particular had a profound impact on me. As far as other film is considered, I am fascinated by Stan Brakhage. I love the concept of cameraless film, taking something that might already, taking film that already has something on it, maybe bleaching that, or taping something to it, or drawing all over it, or whatever, and then running that back through. Is amazing to me. Like I coming across Stan Brakhage's work was a major influence, because thinking about film where you're taking the medium itself and kind of working with that after all the process has taken place, is still super fascinating to me. So definitely his work. And then as far as the one thing that had been really enjoyable for a while, there was a venue. I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky, and there was a venue called the Rudyard Kipling, and they would have this kind of, you would play the soundtrack to a movie. So me and some other friends, together would just, there'd be a drummer and I'd play some samples and there would just be some different things and you would kind of in real time interact with that. And yeah, I love that. It was just so fun to be able to kind of take that sound that's already at your fingertips and then just be able to, immediately be able to interact with that. So that was a great time for sure. And then most recently there's a guy, Andre J is his name. I don't know him, but he made some awesome software called Video Waves. And it basically, I can't do a great job of explaining it. Maybe it's not the time to explain it, but it's called Video Waves, and there's a bunch of A's in the word wave. So it's like, I don't know. Anyway, that is, it's super capable, and you don't have to have any equipment whatsoever. So I would highly recommend, if anyone's interested in doing some wild video type stuff, to check out Video Waves, because it's really fun, for sure. Also, like very inspired by the French New Wave, Jean-Luc Godard, in particular the film Breathless. That one, Contempt as well, was just fantastic. Breaking that line, staring directly at the camera, like all of those things in that time period that hadn't happened. That still fascinates me to this day. And I could go on and on, but anyway, those are some kind of.
I have the same fucking thoughts too.
Yeah.
Too many great scores out there. Like, like anything I've seen from Dario Argento, like, the score, like, I mean, I know, like, in Suspiria, they have, like, a band doing the score. I think they're known as Goblin. I think that's what they're called.
I think so, too.
Yeah, so, but everything was just so, like, retro about it and stuff, and it's like, I feel like, just like when as the synths like living on and still being used in music and stuff, there's still underappreciation for it. I think for like most of the mainstream crowd who doesn't know what the experimental sound is like nowadays, it's just like, oh, we hear it in dubstep, but we don't fucking always care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand that for sure. Yeah, and it's hard to describe. It's kind of like, well, what do you do? It's like, well, I don't know what to, if it's someone that is listening, like, for some sort of musical quality or some sort of rhythmic precision, or it's just like, what do you do? I kind of make music that sounds like it would be on a soundtrack like that, and then I just stop because it's too tough, and like it doesn't line up a lot of times. So
yeah, like, when did you first start putting out content? Like, I'm just wondering about that.
Yeah, sure. So let's see, maybe about 15 years ago or so. It's hard to say. So originally the JAS2 stuff was specific to more like ambient, like field recording type stuff. So I had a tape. It was just kind of me and a friend at the time, released a tape. And then the hip hop stuff I was doing for quite a while, it went under the name Curbside. So I made some beats, and this was like, I mean, this would have been like MySpace era. I don't know, quite a while ago. Things were different back in the day, I guess. But so yeah, I mean, I don't know, really a specific year. But it took too long, like it took too long to get the thing out. It's like, I want to make terrible stuff. I want to make stuff, like, just get the thing out. I know people, and maybe we all do, that they're still trying to put the perfect thing out before they put anything out, and it's so tough. So I don't know. It took me a long time. I wanted it to be this perfect thing. It had to be, like, created a certain way. It had to the packaging had to be in a floppy disk, like an old floppy disk. And it was a CD inside of a floppy disk. And it was cool, but it's like, you know, conceptually, I don't want to spend 7 years working on one album, you know, or something like that, just to have that be a sole focus. It's just there's just too much happening for me personally, to just, you know, hang out, and work on music that way for that long. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think like the first time I started hearing any type of noise and shit, I had to give it a fucking while, man.
Yeah.
I had to give it a while because it was just like, oh, I'm impatient. I'm so fucking impatient. But I think my my friend kind of saw. I don't know when I started like even listening to it again. I think it was still listening to grindcore and a lot of that stuff. And I like the stuff I've heard in movies. You know, I've heard like, you know, when they use those in like these mainstream movies. I'm like, okay, like, you know, don't try to mainstream noise and shit like that. People have been, you know, trying to say, oh, this is noise, this is noise and shit.
Analog's
Um,
better. Digital's
yeah,
better.
digital is better. It is fun.
It's all better.
Broken technology, I think, is a really good use of like sound equipment sometimes, or you know, manipulated stuff like that. Do you think like, you know, have you ever like, you know, played with like stuff that is like, you know, been broken and you put together and you made something or
Oh yeah,
hmm?
most definitely. Quite a bit, you know, taking let's see, so kind of making like I guess what would be called like a crackle box or something like that. Taking the back off of a you know, standard battery powered cassette player, and kind of messing around with the contacts, you know, at the same time, and kind of creating circuit bent style,
Mhm.
those types of things. But more so recently, you know, really getting into turntables and doing like anti-records
That's cool.
yeah, and doing things like that. I very, very much enjoy kind of seeing what it does. Like, how do I do the thing and step out of the way and enjoy it? Because I'll never know what my music sounds like, because or my sounds or whatever. Like, I'll never know what any of that really sounds like to new ears, because I'll never have new ears on it. So like, how can I get as close to that as possible? And one of the ways is to set something up, some sort of generative system, some sort of pattern or thing, set something up, you know, allow there to be some chance, some variation or whatever, and then sit back and listen to your own music once, you know, like figure out a way to have it set up a system, create something, and then step back and then be able to become the listener of what the parameters are that someone has set up, versus trying to be like, no, I'm going to hit this pad every single time to make this noise, or I'm going to do this to do that, or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's just a lot of fun, you know, doing some things through, you know, no input mixing, or just trying to run things backwards and see what happens, you know, or on the side. One thing that's been fun recently is to attempt to do some visual art with a record player, where using ink and a paintbrush, taping that, turning the record player on its side, taping that to the record player, putting paper underneath it, and then just letting that thing roll and like just see kind of what it wants. I mean, I know that it's not really wanting anything, but you know what it what it happens to paint or come across, and you know, kind of putting some of that up in the air and seeing what that is, and then kind of like taking a step back and being more of a like a curatorial type thing or something, where I'm just like making, hey, there's 4,000 things, 20 of them were pretty cool, you know, let's keep moving forward with those 20 or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I yeah, no, when I started hearing about this ticket bending type of stuff, I think it was during the pandemic. And
Okay.
yeah, no, it was really, you know, I was really starting to get like so interested into it. Like, you know, like it's, you know, life's been really hard,
Yeah.
you know, work, whatever, I haven't been able to work and stuff. So doing this podcast, I was going to originally start last year, but
Mm.
I finally, you know, started last fall, I think. And it feels like, you know, now going, you know, and you know, doing everything I've been wanting to, like noise and all that shit,
Yeah.
you know, like so much freedom and stuff. So, and I've been like thinking about, oh, you know, like I would love to find more like electronic junk, whatever, and stuff. And I want to find, what I can mash together. I've been thinking about that like all the time. But sometimes it can be minimal. Sometimes it can be like a big thing.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I'm gonna do a little promo for the next week's guest
Cool.
here. So next week's we have Yotrez Shadem on our show. Amazing harsh noise artist. Also does noise gear videos. If you check them out, you should definitely. And if you're really new to harsh noise and you really want to start or something like that, watch these videos definitely for sure. And then we'll announce the rest of these guests soon. If you guys have seen it on my stories, whatever, or if you're new here or whatever, follow either him or me and stuff, and yeah, support music of any type. So, um, so some artists and stuff like that. So you have like you do a lot of music listening to, right? Other than music making. Um, what have you been listening to lately?
Ooh, yeah. So, um, most recently, let's see here. I'm trying to think. I've been listening to. I'm interested in a piece of gear. Bastel, I believe, is the name of the company that makes something called a micro granny. So what I've been listening to a lot of is people making music on those, and trying to find before I get the device, how I can have it in my hands and start working with it immediately. So yeah, I want to say yesterday I found someone that goes by the name of Midair. Really, what happens is, to me, like, music's kind of like it's kind of like dessert or something like that. So so I do listen to music, but a lot of times it's like I make the music, which is the meal and like the long drawn out part, and then I listen to music as kind of like this is nice, so I'm not constantly listening, because then what happens when I do start listening to music, I want to know more about that person. I want to connect with them and say, hey, like, how'd you do this? What's going on? Like, I question everything all the time. So then I'll start to talk to them, and then it's like, well, hey, would you want to collaborate? And sometimes they say yes, no, or no response or whatever. And then I start, making dinner again or whatever. So I do some, like listening just for pure pleasure or whatever. But really it's kind of like this cycle that starts, I'll find out about a label like Mimacast or something like that. And then I'll listen to everything, like if I watch a movie, I want to watch everything that director did. If I see a label that's cool, like I really like Mimacast a lot. Then I'll just go every release, like no matter what, I'm going to listen to that, see what's up, what's going on, and then people will stick out. And then once they do, it's like, hey, what's up? Like, can we get together? Because that's so neat about this community. It's like it's large enough geographically, but small enough at the same time. That you can talk to the person that made the amazing thing, that otherwise might not be able to be. There's that level of like immediacy, and that level of understanding that this community really has, that I like. So yeah, I mean, as far as like one particular artist, that's hard to say, and I would hate to do that. But yeah, I'm just having a good time. But yeah, I mainly like listen to a label and then just listen to everything that label has if I can, over time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing to do actually. I think having the time to go through like an artist on a great label that are on the same label. I have like so much respect for most of these labels, that are still keeping it underground.
Yeah.
Also like these new upcoming labels, tape labels. Shouts out to Deathbed Tapes.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. I mean, everybody loves Relapse, but sometimes I feel like, why do they overprice their shit? We'll probably be done in 5 minutes here.
Cool.
So do you have any plans for a lot of touring in the future?
I definitely do want to play. You know, I've really just been doing like one a year recently. You know, and mainly in Louisville. You know, and I'm still connected to that area. I live in northeastern Indiana, so I'm looking. You know, I'll be looking for shows in the Ohio area, Michigan area, because I'm super close to both. Or Indiana too. I just don't know. I don't know how much is happening in this state that I'm in, but I'm sure there's some things. So yeah, I think, you know, fairly soon I'll put some feelers out, you know, but
Yeah.
don't have any you know, I don't have anything currently. Till this weather calms down a little bit out here and the snow melts, you know. But once that happens, yep, for sure.
Yeah. The weather is always like shitty. I mean, it's really, it sucks.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've been, anytime I think it's been so easy to watch wrestling or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. You're a wrestling fan?
I there was a point where I feel like I was the largest wrestling fan ever, but then I fell out and I haven't gotten back to it. So this would have been oh, when the WWF was the WWF.
Yeah.
You know,
Everybody late
yeah, so
after that.
like ECW, you
Mm.
know, stacking a bunch of tables on top of each other, just barbed wire matches and things like that. Like that was all that stuff was mind blowing to me. You know, kind of growing up being a teenager, and then for whatever reason, you know, just kind of fell out with it. Went to a couple of, you know, live events and things like that, and that was really neat. You know, to be able to see for sure. But you know, just kind of I just haven't kind of circled back around. It's been years and years. So I know that's your jam.
Yeah. Um, it's been a, yeah, no, it's been a crazy listening journey for, a lot of music out there, and especially been, well, yeah, I don't know, I lost train of thought here, but yeah, it happens here and there.
For sure.
Um, um, so I don't even know how to even leave this show off, but I'll think of something here.
Cool.
Um, so have what what places have you been that had showed like interesting music? Like, have you ever traveled somewhere and experienced different music and stuff that started to appreciate and maybe you wanted to use?
Just just shows in general that have kind of blown me away.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, growing up in Louisville, there was a place called the Brick House, um, and it was like a youth space. And there would be shows. There was a big room and a small room, and the big room was big with a bunch of like old couches in it and stuff. Just a pretty massive space. And the small room was very small, you know, like a bedroom or something like that. It felt like it was a little larger than that, but there was one group that really stuck out to me, and I didn't keep up with them or anything, but they're called Codan Armada, and there was just something like there was a lot of like passion and sort of like power like to that music. You know, there's also a lot of like ska type stuff and then a lot of metal. There was a place in Louisville called Tech World. It was TEK, Tech World, and it was these metal shows like in a strip mall. And I mean, it got crazy in there. I mean, people were just doing all kinds of things in almost like in a strip mall setting. So it was super interesting. But definitely shows, you know, growing up and kind of throughout the teenage years, definitely kind of formed and shaped my I think a lot of choices that I make as far as creating music today, I would say for sure.
Yeah. No, today has been a really big new direction for hip hop and everything else. I think hip hop's in a new good direction. I think it needs to be more appreciated that, there's more noise, hip hop and
Yeah.
other stuff like that. So and yeah, no, there's I haven't been to a show in a while. We're really limited here in Saskatchewan, you know. So that's how it is. So yeah, maybe we'll probably do a split eventually here in the future.
Yeah,
I'll
man.
definitely hit you up after, much stuff done.
Sure, that
But
sounds great.
um, anyways, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Uh, you have a nice day, brother.
Okay, you too. See ya.
And